All right, hopefully everybody can hear me. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Lizzie Schaefer, Blackbaud's General Manager for the Social Good Startup Program, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this amazing session, Supercharging Blackbaud, Real-Time Visibility and Emergency Readiness with Orah, led by Kurt Meyer and Ronan Quirk. Just a few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. I am trying to share the housekeeping slide and it doesn't want to work, so that's okay. I'll just read it. I've got them right here. The audio for this webinar is being broadcast through your computer speakers. If you experience audio or technical issues, try refreshing your browser. The recording for this session will be available on demand in about 24 hours, and you can download the slides on the Docs tab on the right side of your screen. Please use the Q&A to submit questions. I will be monitoring it throughout the session and promise that any questions submitted will be answered either in the session or in a follow-up email if we run out of time. And one more thing, there will be a quick survey launched at the end of the session with the top 3 highest rated sessions from BB Dev Days receiving golden tickets to BBCon in Philadelphia in October. So please do take a second to give us your feedback at the end of the session. With that, please help me in welcoming Kurt and Ronan to the stage for the amazing session. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Lizzie, and hey, everybody, and welcome as well, Kurt. My name is Ronan. I'm a product manager here at Orah, which is a little bit of a global company. I'm based in Wellington, New Zealand, and Kurt is based in Tokyo in Japan as well. So it is already Friday here for us. So good news is Friday is looking good, everybody. Hang in there, you're almost there. We're just going to give you a quick overview of what we're about. The topic today is real-time visibility and emergency readiness between Blackbaud and Orah. But today, I really want to try and focus on what we built and how we built it and some of the challenges that we have. I think that'll probably be most valuable for you all in terms of what our journey was and some of the learnings we have around that. But first, maybe Kurt, I'll ask you to kind of introduce everybody to Orah.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ronan. So Orah's started in 2015. So 10 years now. We started in the boarding school industry, helping boarding schools keep track of where their students are primarily 24/7. And that's what got us started on this journey of helping schools improve their duty of care. So since working with boarding schools over the last few years, we've been working with day schools as well, just extending that same idea of better understanding of where students are and increasing duty of care. So the 3 areas that we focus on around duty of care are understanding where students are, understanding how they're doing, and improving communications with them. So really fundamental questions, and those were the key areas that we consistently saw both in boarding and day schools, is just better understanding of where they are, how they're doing, and being able to communicate with them. So that's generally how our product suite has been organized.
Kurt, thanks. And so, today I guess we're drilling in one specific topic, which is kind of around attendance. And I guess this is your kind of your vision that you're turning into reality around knowing where your students are in real time. And as the sort of semi-owner of 3 kids, I struggle to track where they are in real time. So it's kind of ambitious what we're trying to achieve, and that's kind of why we need to partner and leverage Blackbaud because we just don't have everything that we would need to be able to do this in isolation, or else it'd be super clunky and hard for schools to do that. Yeah, so that's the kind of the need. Was accounting for students requires accurate and real-time attendance records. Do you want to just, before I kind of dive into the technical side of that and where Blackbaud and Sky API comes into it, maybe kind of when you told me to go work on these integrations, what did you have in mind?
Yeah, for real-time attendance records, I think the key difference that we noticed between like traditional academic attendance and attendance for accounting for students in real time is that academic attendance is usually, you're usually doing it for the purpose of creating the academic report. And it doesn't really matter if the teacher takes attendance on time. Obviously, everyone wants them to take it on time, but it's not essential in order to achieve the end goal, which is, creating the report for the student for their attendance for their academic courses. Whereas real-time attendance, when you're trying to understand where students are and have real-time visibility, it's actually really important that you have that real-time, up-to-date accounting of where students are. And we found that schools were often using the academic attendance system to try to report on where students are in real time. But it's a tool that's built for a different purpose. So the way that we've approached it is, we built an attendance solution to keep track of students in real time. So we update students' location. We put a lot of emphasis on marking teachers completing their role at the right time. But we still send all of that information back to the system of record, which is the SIS, so that they can still generate their downstream academic reports. So that was sort of the goal behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we want to enrich the Blackbaud data. We don't want to replace it because it's, there's already a really well working system there in terms of the core student data, rosters, schedules, courses, all of that information. But what we're trying to do then, I guess, is enrich it with all of the things that we do, and then sort of use Orah for kind of like capturing that sort of well-being, location, and attendance kind of information. But then, if we're doing that, then we're going to we need to send it back. This is kind of our plan in terms of what we wanted to do. Leverage all the core super useful information that Blackbaud has, enrich it with Orah, provide some experiences in Orah that kind of will be where some schools will then be using for kind of in the moment information, but then sending back the system of record data back to Blackbaud so that can work. And so, yes, then drilling in a little bit more into what that actually looks like. It's kind of what I'm trying to show here is kind of where the data is kind of mastered. So student information, parent, family, contact information, staff, roster, all of that information mastered in Blackbaud, and then we're syncing across class attendance data. We are kind of, for most schools, that's being kind of recorded in Orah, and then we're sending that back to Blackbaud as well in our ideal state. And then we've got extra information then as well that we're typically keeping in Orah because it just makes sense and there isn't really a natural fit. And I guess the other thing is that we're trying to keep what you would do in terms of your core activities in Blackbaud the same. So you can still do your attendance reporting and that kind of stuff, but sort of your real-time information, emergency roles, all those kind of things we would be doing in Orah. So that was kind of where we started. We kind of probably useful to share our journey as well, because we've been working on Blackbaud in the Sky API for about 3 years now. So that's, and we started with quite a simple-ish integration, simple compared to what we're doing now around syncing student and contact information initially, just sort of that core student data. And then we built it out from there. This is where we're at today in terms of what we're doing. Sort of our approach is connecting the Sky API, bringing data into Orah, and then writing back certain information as need be to Blackbaud via Sky API. And then sometimes we're actually pulling that entire data set back again into Orah. So there's quite a bit of back and forth. And in Orah, we kind of think about these different data elements as what we call sync objects. So we've got students, contacts, staff, role records, and pass records. Pass records are kind of absences in the Orah universe, and groups can be anything from sports team to an actual specific course class. And then attendance history is all the attendance records that we've generated as a result. So those are all the different things, and within each one, then we may be talking to 2, 3, 4 probably different APIs within the Sky API to kind of create that data. I'm not going to go through all the code, but just as an example of what we're kind of doing. So yeah, we're connecting to a whole bunch. And so this is the education management API within Sky API that we're using. And yeah, we're connecting to just a whole bunch of different APIs to get the data we need. And one thing we found, which I think is probably useful for others if you're kind of looking into this, is that there's just a whole bunch of permissions required around those different API endpoints, and rightfully so, obviously, from a data security and governance point of view. Yeah, that was something that we found as well, is just connecting to all of this data. We're reaching into lots of different places, and you require different elevated permissions to connect to that. So that was, yeah, as I said, it was a bit of a journey. I guess the result in terms of what we've done so far is that we can now use Blackbaud attendance data to create these accessible attendance data reports, which are quite user-friendly and shareable within Orah, where staff might be doing other things as well. So you can kind of see this kind of useful attendance data. One thing we're super excited about is being able to sync locations from Blackbaud, enrich the classes, buildings, those kind of things with geocoding within Orah. So then you can actually start mapping out the locations that of where things are happening. And then as you're taking roles and things like that in real time, Kurt, that's when this starts updating live, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is when we really start to add value to the Blackbaud system, where we're doing attendance, and you can do attendance at Blackbaud, but with Orah attendance, as Roden said, we'll send the records back to Blackbaud, but we're also updating students' location using your Blackbaud structure. So all the buildings and rooms that you've set up, we can sync that over to Orah, and then Orah has another layer of managing locations, which also feeds into our pass absence system as well. So for students, say, checking into the health center, or getting an early dismissal, or something like that, then the location is constantly being updated. And I think this is where Ronan is going to next, but that puts the school in a much better position for emergency readiness.
Yes, yeah. The other thing we kind of we're doing with all this attendance data then is being able to kind of create alerts, notifications around the attendance data at quite a fairly granular level in terms of the types of notifications that you can generate. They can go to staff, they can go to the teacher of a particular course, they could go to the tutor for that student and to let them know that there's an attendance pattern happening in other classes. I feel a bit guilty about this one because from as being an ex-student who maybe didn't go to all my classes, we can alert your parents straight away. We can also notify the student themselves as well, which I think is a good way of kind of maybe giving them a heads up that you're not getting away as much with as much as you used to be able to as well. And yeah, and then I guess from a parent's point of view as well, we're actually providing a way to provide them with a way of entering if kids got to go to the doctor today, something like that, then they can jump online. They can enter that into the Orah parent portal, goes into Orah, but also that'll automatically kind of go back to Blackbaud as well, which really streamlines quite a few processes for the schools as well. So that's just a taster of what we've unlocked, which is quite a bit, thanks to the integration. Since this is a BB Dev Days talk, I thought I'd also kind of get into the nitty gritty of some of the challenges we've had in terms of trying to get this working.
Hey Ronan, just
yep.
Sorry to jump in. We just had a question asking, does this require students to share their location? The answer is no. So it's not using GPS tracking. It's being able to check into locations that the school has set up.
Yeah.
That's how that location map works. And a follow-up question also for the parent entered attendance, so the one that you're just showing. We are a boarding and day school. For our boarding students, we act as a parent while they are with us. We do not want boarding parents reporting in their students on campus presence or location. So the boarding parents reporting on their students on campus presence location.
Yeah, not 100%, but well, let's talk about what the configuration and options are. There's quite a you can define who gets access to reports if that's a concern. We don't. So you can limit it that way if that's something that you wanted to do. If you didn't want to have people tracking using the location view, that you can limit access to that, right?
Yep, and you can also control access to the parent app as well. So thanks, Carolyn, for clarifying that. Sorry, I guess we'll come back to Q&A at the end. We're getting some more questions coming through, but
that's good. Yeah, well, maybe we'll shoot through some of the challenges and then come back to some. It sounds like we've unlocked some interesting questions, so I might jump back to some of those slides we had. One of our challenges was there's a whole just complicated system of and rightly so, of rostering and how that works within Blackbaud. Initially, we thought we would have to replicate all of that logic, but actually what we found is that we just leave Blackbaud to manage all of that, and we just read the daily schedule directly from the Sky API, and we can just do that. We just say we're done. We don't know what else is going to happen, so we'll just take as given whatever classes are scheduled today. That's what we'll read in. It does mean we need to update that on a daily basis, and if you made some schedule changes, during the day, then that we'd have to manually rerun the sync. But that's much better and simpler and less error prone than us trying to replicate the entire schedule and kind of generating that schedule ourselves. So that was one thing we found. In terms of the API load and limits, because we are trying to bring in a huge amount of attendance data back and forth, there are some challenges that we need to be kind of careful of. So certain things we sync on a daily basis, but then information that we want to populate, say, for example, into the attendance dashboard, if it's coming from Blackbaud, then we'll sync that in on an hourly basis. If you're taking attendance within Orah, that actually shows up in real time in the Insights dashboard as well. One other challenge that we have is historical revisions. Say, for example, if attendance records were changed for a student covering a period in March, then pulling back that information, just going back to March and pulling that information is quite difficult for us to do in terms of replicating the dashboard. This is now only an issue if schools are kind of managing, editing attendance in both places in Blackbaud and Orah. If you're just doing it in Orah, we push everything that's changed back into Blackbaud. But if you're kind of going into Blackbaud and making changes, then that's where we kind of we struggle a little bit as well. Yeah, and then that kind of flows onto our last kind of challenge, which is about data divergence. Is that if you're as a school, if you're trying to edit in both places and some people are making changes in Blackbaud and some people are making it in Orah, that can mean that the source of truth kind of gets a bit split. So we've become a bit more, I guess, opinionated and firmer in terms of how that should work with schools. We've kind of maybe made a little bit of a mistake of giving schools a bit too many options in that regard, and which kind of caused a little bit of a challenge in that. In that area, but yeah, so that's kind of what led us to kind of some of the areas we're working on next. One thing is being able to cross-check the data to, if we do have divergence in attendance records, that we can actually monitor that and then kind of reconcile that. And that's typically kind of looking at the school's data, saying, okay, there's a certain type of attendance records that keep getting changed in the wrong place, and then we'll have a conversation about just changing a process that as well. More opinion in terms of exactly what the integration flows should be. And then the other one is that keeping up with the Sky API, that constantly releasing some features, and some of them are quite useful in terms of our integration as well. And so we're just constantly making sure that we need to just kind of update as new features come available that will make things a little bit simpler. But yeah, so that's kind of just a sense of that. But it sounds like there's quite a few questions have come up, and I'll maybe go back to some of the slides we had here that might refresh everybody's memory, and we can go through some like Q&A.
Awesome, thanks, Ronan. We just had one come through for how often or how long does it take to sync the data back and forth?
Yeah. So if your typical data flow is if you're taking attendance in Orah, we batch up all the, say you've taken a roll for 30 kids, you've got 7 or 8 classes taking place at the same time. What we do is we kind of batch up all of those records and we send it in 15-minute bursts to Blackbaud. So typically, if you've taken attendance in Orah, it might be 15 to 20 minutes before the same data shows up in Blackbaud. But the dashboards and alerts and notifications that are driven by Orah are kind of in real time. Yeah, so just our account is asking to sync from the parent app. Sync from the parent app. So I think there's that is in there's kind of 2 stages to that. So the parent puts in a request that typically goes into a request view in Orah for the attendance manager or something like that to view and approve those requests. And once that is approved, then that goes into the queue and will be sent through in 15 minutes. But you might find that somebody creates the request at, say, 6 a.m., sick kid, and then the attendance manager will check that at 8 a.m., approve them, and then they'll kind of be posted. But as soon as they're approved in Orah, then that marks the class roles in Orah straight away, and then that pushes to Blackbaud as well.
Yeah, that's right. And for a like in the boarding school context, it's usually helpful to consolidate the tools for excusing students from class, and if the boarder isn't going to be in the boarding house, so they would use the same app to say, or the boarding staff could use the same app to say, the student is sick, they're staying in the boarding house today, and then that would sync over to the day school attendants to excuse that student. So in terms of excuses and leave and passes, that all happens in the same system, and it would update the attendance record if the student wasn't expected to be in that class.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Some really good questions there. Yeah. So that's, I'm just, I think we've pretty much covered everything that we want to do today. If you do have any more questions, jump in. As Lizzie mentioned, we're definitely happy to answer questions afterwards as well. You can always drop me a line. Kurt, as you can tell, is the attendance guru. I'm more of the techie guru, but both of us will be happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do reach out. Oh, we have another one. We're a day school with 3 divisions. How does it handle different schedules between them? You want to have a go at that one, Ronan? I think that's quite a...
Yeah,
I think I know the answer, but yeah. I think you'd know better.
Yeah, we basically look at it on a per student basis. So we'll just read in every schedule for that. You can, when you're setting up your kind of your Orah instance, you might define what students, maybe you only want certain grades to be in Orah, in which case we'll only look for the schedules for those students. But we're kind of, we don't. So we'll just read whatever the schedule is for those students. So we look at it on a per student basis, essentially. So that should work within divisions. And yes, you can set up access with different students. You sort of could set up the access on a grade level, or you could combine a bunch of grades into what we call a tag, which allows you to access it that way. Awesome.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Ronan and Kurt, for what an incredible presentation. We've gone ahead and launched the survey. So everyone watching and in the chat, if you could please just take a minute to tell us how much you enjoyed it, so we can see if we can get Ronan and Kurt that golden ticket to Philadelphia in October. That would be amazing. Any follow-up questions, there's contact info in the tab, and hope to see everyone in our closing session for BB Dev Days here in just about a minute. Hope everyone has enjoyed the conference, and thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Lizzie. Thank you, everyone.